Mark. If any of you were listening closely to last week's sermon, you may be scratching your heads this morning, wondering if you haven't heard this one before. For the record, last week's scripture was from the Gospel of John, and it portrayed two men, Andrew and an unnamed man, but certainly not his brother Simon, following Jesus home. Jesus asked them, "What are you looking for?" emphasizing the importance of seeking in our lives. This morning, our text is also about the first disciples, a different version, if you will. Andrew and his brother Simon, as well as the brothers James and John. But these brothers are not seeking after Jesus, as John's story told us last week. They are simply going about their regular, daily routines, and Jesus comes along and invites them to join him. This story marks the halfway point in our 6-week sermon series on the life of Jesus, which I've subtitled, What God is Like. In the first week, we found a loving God speaking to Jesus and to us on the day of Jesus' baptism, that we are all beloved, wonderfully and beautifully made. Last week, we found a seeking God. As we seek truth, so God seeks us, and the circle continues deeper and deeper into our own hero's journey and the love and grace of God. Today, we'll discover together an inviting God, meeting us where we are and offering us a new way of being. I like that this story begins with Andrew and Simon Peter throwing their nets into the lake. Now, I haven't fished much since I came to Colorado, but growing up in South Carolina, my grandfather kept a pond stocked with fish on his cow farm. He used to drive across the field and honk the horn wildly as he drove up. And when he got out, he would toss handfuls of fish food out into the pond. Then he would drag a cooler over to the pond's edge with a couple of fishing poles, and we'd sit down, and in just a few minutes, the fish would really be biting. Now, I quite liked fishing with my grandfather. It was a lot of fun. So imagine my surprise when my college boyfriend invited me to go fishing, and we sat beside a lake for 5 hours without a single bite. On that day, I decided that there's fishing and there's fishing, and I didn't really like fishing, not the real way. I liked maximum output for minimum input. I don't really have the patience for fishing. It's a little too slow for me. It's a little too inactive. You just have to sit there and wait for a long time, which will tell you something about the path I have to grow in my spirituality as well. But in our story today, Andrew and Simon Peter aren't just sitting in a boat or sitting on a cooler by the side of the river. They are standing on the beach, maybe knee-deep or waist-deep in the water, and they're tossing their nets into the waves. This is a good sign for me, because in order to successfully fish for Jesus Christ, these men are going to have to get their feet wet. They're going to have to get up and get active, get in the water, and get moving. Sure, they will need patience, and sure, sometimes things will go very slowly. But it won't be all quiet and calm and peaceful like fishing by the lake. By the end of these short verses, in fact, we see that Jesus has already become something like a celebrity. The momentum is growing, and the crowds of people have already begun to flock around him. Another thing I like about the start of this version of the story of the call of the first disciples is that all of these men, all 4 of them, are going about their regular daily routines, doing their work, making their living. No one is meditating under a banyan tree or sitting in an ashram. These men are just regular working men, not politicians or public speakers, not well known in any way, except for maybe the fact that they provided food for their villages and their families. Truth be told, these 4 fishermen probably smell a little fishy. And they're probably guys that keep to themselves, not the kind of guys you'd see out at the soda fountain or at the coffee shop, more alone on the beach with their friends and family. So it speaks volumes to me that Jesus spots these guys on the beach, and heads over to invite them to join him. Okay, maybe he thought he'd never starve if he has a few fishermen on his A-team, but I actually think that Jesus' choice in these first 4 men proves that we don't have to be anything special. We don't have to have any special skills or training to meet Jesus, to hear a call in our own lives, and to make a decision to drop what we're doing, professionally, personally, emotionally, or vocationally, and follow Jesus. It sounds a little easier said than done, and I agree that it can come across that way. But look back to the text. Jesus doesn't explain the requirements of the job he's offering. He doesn't try to sell these fishermen on being his disciple. He doesn't lay out any times of work, job specifications, or expectations. There are no salary negotiations and no discussion of the potential benefits of becoming a disciple. Jesus simply invites them to learn to fish in a new way, a more meaningful way, and he invites them to come with him. He offers to show them the ropes. I'll show you how, Jesus says in this version of the text. That's still true in our lives. Jesus walks with us today, showing us how to navigate deep waters, natural disasters, and crises of all kinds, mental, emotional, and physical. We are not alone. He called here sets of brothers from the shore side of the Sea of Galilee. And today he also calls us to be in community with one another, to be brothers and sisters in his work together. Finally, as Jesus begins to heal the ailments of people of all kinds, he makes it clear that he's bringing about a new world order. There is no State of the Union address, no politicking here, no empty rhetoric or bright visions painted without action to back them up. Jesus has come to the earth to bring God's rule to the people, what he calls a good government. Imagine what that might look like. Jesus longs to heal us from the bad effects of our own choices and the choices of those around us. Jesus has come to start a revolution, but not of political proportions. This revolution is socioeconomic. It's spiritual, but not religious. It's intimately personal, and it begins with an invitation. The disciples' responses are different. Andrew and Simon Peter simply dropped their nets and followed. James and John were just as quick to follow, abandoning boat and father. Combined, their responses give us an idea to our best possible response. It's simple and quick. Just let go. Let go of the expectations and requirements that we have for ourselves before we meet Jesus. Let go of the status symbol, boat or car or house or job. Let go of the father or the mother or anyone else in your family or friends who cannot support you in your new journey. Let go of anything and everything that keeps us from following Jesus. This is the only true way to experience freedom and lasting happiness. With fists clenched tightly around all that we think we want and need to be happy, we are unable to be open and receive all of the goodness that God is waiting to give us. Jesus' invitation to these 4 men and to us today is couched in simple words. Come with me. I'll show you how. But there is nothing simple about letting go of control and letting God lead us. For me, I see this symbiotic relationship, this journey together, like a pair of skilled tango dancers. I love ballroom dancing, but I've never been very great at the tango. It's a technically quite difficult dance. And the most difficult part for me is not learning the steps, it's finding a partner whom I can trust. The difficulty in the tango versus some other ballroom dances is that one partner, usually the man, does not lead, as the other partner, usually the woman, follows behind. That's your typical model in ballroom dancing. But in the tango, both partners lead and follow fluidly. The leadership of the dance flows from the man to the woman to the man, and for a skilled pair of tango dancers, if you were to watch them at any point in time, you shouldn't be able to tell who is leading and who is following. I've never found someone to dance with me on the dance floor like that. Someone that I can trust to lead, but someone who also trusts me, someone who trusts me not to give up my own leadership. He's a great dancer.
Not the tango.
But the tango is tough. The tango is a challenge. And to me, that's what following Jesus is like. Jesus is not the man, the leader, the only one with skill and an idea of what the dance of our lives should flow like. We too are the leaders, the skilled dancers, with intelligence and experience and a vision for our own future. But when we dance together, when we become so closely attuned to what God's Spirit is speaking and moving in our own lives, we can dance arm in arm with Jesus Christ, pressing our hearts close to His heart, hearing the heartbeat that we all share. We can join Jesus here at the shoreside, drop our nets, and simply and quickly follow God. You know, there's power in letting go, in pouring out, in standing open-handed and open-hearted before the Creator of the universe and the Creator of our most intimate thoughts and feelings. There is power in the invitation to dance and to fish and to walk with the Spirit. Jesus is inviting us all, every moment, to join Him in this journey. And isn't that what God is like? Would you please join me in prayer?